Private Record. We got another great episode for you. Our guest, his name is Ryan. This is honestly a very funny story. It's serious what happened to Ryan and what continues to happen to him. All different ways, versions of weird, crazy things throughout the story. It's a serious predicament he's got himself in. But the fact that he can tell it in retrospect, he can tell it with a great sense of humor, and we always appreciate that here on this show. We're always trying to balance, as I even tell Ryan at some point in the episode, we're always trying to balance the really serious stories with, the sort of funnier stories, because we want them all. We want all different kinds of stories on this show. Tragedy, comedy, and everything in between. We want to hear from you. And if you want to be a guest on the show, go to theprivaterecord.com to submit yourself as a potential guest. Follow us on all socials, on Instagram, TikTok, at The Private Record. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, at The Private Record. Like this video. Comment on this video. Tell us what you think about Ryan and his story, and share it with your friends if you do indeed like it. That means a lot to us. I honestly love this story. Ryan, he's a character. He's a character. And some of you are going to love him. Some of you, and even me at times, I at times was like, fuck this guy. But in a good way, in a way that you're going to like. It's entertaining, and he's a good dude. At the end of the day, he's a good dude. I think you're going to agree. Enjoy the episode. I'll talk to you. I'll see you very, very, very soon. Thank you.
I guess the best headline for this is I was held at gunpoint and almost placed under arrest for stealing my own vehicle.
Now, anytime you've said that or anytime anyone's ever said anything like that, the very first question is, how the fuck is that possible? How did that happen? And that's what the story's about. So let's have it. I can't wait to find out.
Oh boy, let's get into that. So first, I must state that there were no animals harmed in the story that we're about to tell. There's actually no animals involved in the story either. So I just
okay.
For your viewers, just want them to be aware, like nothing's going to get sad like that.
Right.
So,
they don't have anything to worry about. Any animal rights activists or anything like that. Yeah. Okay. Good.
Like that.
Okay.
Nothing.
Everybody can relax.
So yeah. So probably I want to say, God, I don't want to date myself because that would be weird, but this took place a long time ago. I kind of lost track of it just because this was before the time of Ubers, which sort of plays into the story a bit. So I was in a local band that was doing pretty well in the town that the story takes place in, which shall remain nameless. Mm-hmm. After our show, we went out, a couple of the guys and I, to a pretty hot spot in the city that we were just looking to go post-show, hang with some friends, maybe try our best attempts at meeting ladies, which always failed for us, and just looking to get the evening started. So the first place we went happened to be a spot that was really close to the venue that we just played at. So typical spot for people to kind of like bar hop in this particular area. So we went there, and I guess I'll back up in saying that on this particular day, instead of riding with the rest of the band to our show, I drove my car separate because we had the plan of going out afterwards. One of my friends who was not drinking at the time opted to sort of be the DD. So I offered up my car for his driving services. And that's where the story begins. So we had some drinks in us. Now, one thing to kind of like state just from looking back as well. So there was a sign on the wall that said, parking here more than, I think it was 2 hours you'll be towed at the owner's expense. So we're well aware that was the thing. We were maybe in the place for like 30 minutes and the car was just gone.
Oh God.
So basically what happened, we were out enjoying some drinks, having some fun, and kind of, the night was dragging on. Like I said, failed attempt at meeting the ladies. So we're like, hey, let's just go hop out somewhere else here. So we decided to go to the parking lots to head out to a new destination. I can't remember where we were thinking about going, but I guess it's irrelevant for anybody that's watching this. So we went out to the parking lot after we paid our tab, of course, because we're not criminals, Matt. We're not criminals.
So you claim, or at least not in this one way. Okay, yeah.
Not in this particular facet of the story.
Right.
So we went out to the parking lot, and wouldn't you know it, lo and behold, where there used to sit a car was no longer there. Now, Initially, I wasn't too upset because my car was a real big piece of shit. I believe it was like
Somebody did you a favor, took it off your hands. Yeah,
exactly. It was like, if you ever heard the song "Piece of Shit Car" by Adam Sandler, I felt like it was a direct ode to my
right,
1999 Grand Am.
You related to that. Yeah, got it.
Yeah, it always tugged at the heartstrings. So we went outside, and at first I'm like, are we sure we didn't park at the venue? Like, are we over here? Because mind you, again, we'd had a few drinks in us. My buddy that was the driver just said, obviously, no, like I know we parked here, it's gone. Right. So we had to figure it out. So went inside because there wasn't a number on the sign. Like there's usually some sort of like, if you're towed, please call this number.
Totally. Yeah.
So we went inside, and basically in this particular area, in the popular town we were in, it's just so busy. So they don't really have like one company that's sort of servicing their bar area. So we had to play a little bit of detective work of our own for a while to find where said vehicle had went. And of course, as just the story was already having fun for us that night, the place that had my vehicle was about just over an hour away from where
what? Dude, what the fuck? Oh my God.
And mind you, like the guy, so we were only in there. And again, I'm just saying this because we were not there for more than 2 hours.
Right.
I'll say that.
Yeah. Okay.
But basically at this point, we finally get the number for this place, which basically I think was like pinging to somebody's office that was going to somebody's cell phone.
Right.
Because apparently the lot or wherever this went to was not like a city owned thing. It was like a private owned like junkyard basically, with pretty much one person that was making the rounds. So we called him because I didn't want to like go playing detective work, like where were we last night, and figure out the whole thing the next day. I wanted to get my car back and figure out what was going on. So we end up finding out where it is, and we get to the lot that I can't remember if we took a cab. Like I said, it was before Uber and
But
Lyft,
before that, I got a question for you, Ryan. Did you think, or how much of you considered the possibility that the car was actually just stolen?
Well, as I mentioned before, it was a real big piece of shit. So the chances of that were pretty slim to none. And again, if that were the case, I mean, I didn't immediately report it missing. So that was, I didn't think so. In the city that we were in, how should I say, it's kind of like the upper echelon of the state.
Got it. Okay. Got it. So nobody's going to steal your car in that area. They're going to steal the fucking nice Lexus up the street. Okay, yeah.
That was it. My 99 Grand Am that was gray except for the black bumper sitting next to the Lexus or Mercedes was definitely not the targeted choice.
Got it. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so then we found out where it was. We made our way out there. I can't remember if friends drove us and dropped us off or if it was a cab, but we got out there, and on top of it all, as I mentioned, this was just kind of like a one guy operation, kind of this shady little place in this dark lot off in the desert somewhere. And what ended up happening then is, we're sitting there and waiting around. I called the place again to like notify, like, hey, we're close, we're almost there. And the guy answered his phone finally after like 50 attempts of trying to reach him, and basically said, well, hey, I'm sorry about that, but I'm out, picking up something else. It's going to be at least an hour and a half till we're back at that place to take care of you. And so now the buzz that we were trying to acquire that evening was being killed harshly for us. Right. And we decided to start waiting it out. So I don't remember time frame from the point we went to that bar to like how long this had been, but it had been a while. We had just gotten the night started. So the enthusiasm was high and then it started to dwindle down, as you can imagine.
Yes.
God, I want to say probably about half hour goes by, 45 minutes. We're just kind of sitting there. The place was like completely dark on this just pitch black street in the middle of nowhere. So we walked probably about maybe a half mile, quarter mile down because we saw like a street light at the end, so we can just kind of be somewhere that we deemed somewhat safe in this sketchy place.
Yeah.
We're sitting there, my friends and I that had been consuming some beverages that evening. We're just, giggling, joking, trying to make the best of it. I really didn't care because, again, piece of shit car, didn't really care. Just wanted to get on with the night.
Yeah.
My friend, who will remain nameless, that was the driver of this evening, was just kind of getting agitated because he's not drinking. He by the way, I should rewind as well. It's not that he didn't want to drink, that he might have had something going on with the law himself where he wasn't permitted to drink at this time. So
Okay, got it. So he'd rather be drink, especially in a situation like this. He'd rather be drunk like the rest of you guys.
Oh yeah, I mean, had he been able to drink, he probably would have went to the store, bought a bottle, and drank it on the street just to kill the time. Like, that's what was going on there.
Got it. So he's extra frustrated then, let's say.
Extra frustrated. So he's just sitting there because we're drunk, and if you're ever talking to drunk people when you're sober, I mean, people are just spitting in your face. It's annoying. It's pretty annoying.
Yeah.
So he gets up at one point, just kind of stretches out because we're all just sitting around, and we had no idea. I mean, the guy said it could be an hour, it could be an hour and a half, it could have been the next day. We had no idea where he was picking up a car from, all this. So basically, at one point, my buddy gets up, and the last word I just heard was "fuck this," and I'm like, okay. And while he wasn't drinking alcohol, he was drinking water, pop, as we call it from where I'm from, just to kind of keep pace with everybody. So we thought, he was going to just relieve himself somewhere down the dark street with urination and hopefully not masturbation.
Yeah, that would be,
that would be,
could have spiced up the night in a different way, but I hear you. Yeah.
Might have relieved some of his tension.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so he disappeared into the dark abyss, as it were, and we're still at the end of the street hanging out. All of a sudden, we kind of hear like a bit of a rattling noise going on. And we weren't really sure what was going on, didn't know if there's like a guard dog on premises or just what was happening, if the guy hopped a fence to go to the bathroom somewhere, had no idea. All of a sudden, just like a scene out of the movie, we hear screeching tires, and then we see, I would say headlights, but again, piece of shit car. One headlight was out.
Wow.
So we hear screeching tires, and we see one headlight coming down the road, and we're like, "Hey, what's going on? What are the chances somebody else on this street has a missing headlight? Is a motorcycle coming for us? We don't know." All of a sudden, we get the vehicle approaching, and soon to realize, like, "Hey, we know you. That's my car."
Wow, dude. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Took matters into his own hands.
Took matters into his own hands, and I'll leave maybe a piece of it out just to be safe, I guess. It's been years, but at first it was interesting because, again, we had immediate plans to go on to our next destination.
Right.
That was just like an interim problem that we had, and we were still looking to continue the night. Nobody was defeated, and all of a sudden, like, he pulls up, and again, we're about a half mile down the road. We don't know what's really going on. We get in the car, and we kind of had an understanding that perhaps he didn't go in, pay my fine, and leave appropriately.
Yeah, I would assume that as well. Yes.
So, we get in the car, and at first, it's kind of like we just won the Super Bowl. Everybody's driving. We're excited.
Oh, dude, you've been relieved from this horrible detour of the night. Now you can get back on track. Yeah.
Car was towed. We're back on. Like, let's go continue to fail our attempts at meeting women.
Right.
And just get right back to it. So everybody on the way to the next location is still like in high gear. They're kind of talking about what just happened. And then for me as the vehicle owner, reality sort of starts to set in, because then I'm like, wait a minute. What is this?
Yeah.
Like, what exactly is this situation? Because it's my car. I know the person, and I'm happy to like now be inside of my vehicle. I did not take my vehicle, so I started getting a little bit concerned.
Yeah.
Didn't know what was going on. Didn't know what to make of it.
Yeah. There's a lot of little nuanced parts too, because it is, like you said, it is your car. You're in it. You know it's not stolen, but you also know it was towed legally, put in even in this horrible junkyard legally. It's official business that it's there. He took it away from there. You could say on your behalf in a way, but still it's like, what is the legality of this? And let's assume it is not legal what your friend did. Yeah.
Let's assume that. And also let's assume that, again, just to cover myself in there, the car was definitely not there longer than it was supposed to be.
Right.
So,
yeah.
So perhaps they mayady they picked the wrong car. Just was an eyesore of the business. Who knows what happened?
Right.
Either way, yeah, I don't know what's going on. But lo and behold, we just kind of said, whatever. Like, let's just get on with the evening. Let's do it. Let's just continue on with what we set out to do. And nothing was going on. I wasn't getting any phone calls from the guy at the yard.
Right,
So
right.
Don't really know. Just kind of assumed whatever. So we went out. We enjoyed the rest of that night. Whatever we ended up doing, don't really recall because obviously that wasn't the highlight of the evening anymore.
Right.
The next day I woke up, and Matt, you strike me like a gentleman that doesn't get into a lot of trouble in your life.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
On
Yeah.
the off chance you ever have, sometimes you wake up, especially if you were drinking the night before, and you open your eyes and then you begin to remember.
Oh yeah.
At first, like, is this a dream? Like, did something happen? Like, what is going on? Like, it starts to just kind of like come back, and then you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
So at this point now, I'm in it alone because now I'm just like at my house, and I tend to be a worrier. So I'm just like, what happened? What is this? What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Everything like this. So talked to a few close friends just about the situation, just trying to get a little bit of advice. Everybody kind of just said, hey, has anybody called you? Has anything come from this? No? Then, hey, dude, chill the fuck out for a little bit.
Yeah.
So it was crazy. So a couple days ended up passing.
Whoa.
Nothing was happening.
Whoa.
So
Okay.
thinking,
Wow.
At this point, I don't know what it is. Like in something like this, you feel maybe it's just something that gets brushed under the rug, and it's not like there's bigger fish to fry.
Yeah.
Thing. Just kind of assumed after a couple days would have heard something. And so at that point I felt a little bit more comfortable going about ease with my life.
Right.
I want to say probably about a week into it.
Damn, that's some time. That's like that's a chunk of time I would have thought I'm home free. This is good. This is nothing happened. I'm good. I'm fine. Yeah.
100%. I was like, okay, it's over. I'm clear. I just got to the point where I moved on from the anxiety.
Right.
And then
wouldn't
you know, I get a private call on my phone at the time, and I didn't answer. I never usually answered those private calls back in the day, or even to this day.
Yep, same.
And then boom, voicemail. Check it, seeing who it is. If it's somebody that's called, randomly. If somebody, I had crazy girlfriends in my past, Matt, that would block their numbers, and that's part of it.
Oh yeah.
So I thought maybe the message might be from one of them or something like that. But it turned out to be somebody who identified themselves as a detective working on a case. They had questions about a vehicle that was no longer at a tow yard.
Okay.
And I go into full-on panic mode at this point, because I'm just like, oh shit, now what's going on?
Yeah.
At this time, I think like I went to one of those websites like www.lawyer.com or
something. Dude. Yep.
Ask a question. And so I kind of entered my question in there, and I sort of was just like, hey, like this group of friends I know, certainly not myself or anybody else.
Yeah.
They this happened to them, and it was another one of those things where like, one guy got back to me, and like his advice was just like, listen, it sounds like this was like some grainy, shitty yard in the middle of nowhere. Surveillance footage that if they even had it, it's going to be hazy. It's not you, like you're not involved in this like in any way, blah blah blah. So no matter what, like you're clear. If it comes down to it, that's you're good. I wouldn't even worry about this. Don't even answer the call. It'll probably just go away. And I'm like, cool. Glad you were the first guy, because that's exactly what I wanted to hear.
Yeah, thank you for telling me literally the exact words, word for word, that I desired to hear. Like that's like a professional saying, you can actually relax, everything's fine. That never happens. Always some lawyer's gonna be like, well, this could happen or that could happen. It's not likely, but when a lawyer's like, no, you're fine, you could just fucking kick back and feel good. But yeah.
Well, yeah. You think that I'm just a little fish in the pond, and the lawyers got there. Hey, I just submitted this entry, so we're going to catch this and take this guy for whatever we can.
Right.
Even if there is nothing that'll come out of it.
Right.
The problem was the second guy that responded to me.
Okay, got it.
He had a little bit of a different response in terms of what it could be, because I kind of was asking, what is this?
Yeah.
What is this exact scenario? And I don't know. I guess I can just say like what they sort of told me, that the potential issue at hand might be allegedly something called theft of services. So because it was my vehicle, I was not the driver, so it could have been like Grand Theft Auto or something like that. But because I guess I was aware, I don't really know. So theft of services, I guess, just because they were providing a service and we did not
Oh, okay. So the services are on behalf of the junkyard operated by the one guy who wasn't there. Got it.
Exactly. So this point, I'm hearing this guy basically say, like, listen, if everything that you're telling me is true, like, there's not much that you necessarily need to worry about.
Okay.
But, how good of friends are you with the guy that, did this that evening? And then you got to sit and ponder that for a second. Now, how good of friends am I with him?
Right. Yeah.
If this comes down to some serious shit, like, I'm not going down for it because I didn't do this.
Yeah. And he didn't even say he was going to do it. Like, he didn't even say it and you said no. He didn't even bring it up at all.
We had no idea. None of it even made sense to me.
Right.
The first time I'm like, did you like hotwire my, but then I realized, okay, the car was towed. He had my key.
He had the key. Yeah.
So at first I just did not know what was going on. So I ended up giving that guy a call and just said, listen, man, got a call and somebody's checking this out right now. I don't know to what extent, but I have not responded to this. And I've just gotten a little bit of advice. And I just, at this point, let's have a conversation, because if something happens, like, man, I love you, but I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not taking the fall for this. We have to like figure something out.
Yeah.
The dude, he wasn't by any means any sort of like hardened, crazy criminal or whatever. The reason why I couldn't drink wasn't anything super serious. Right. He was also like a pretty just like wild card character, if you can imagine.
I can. Yeah.
And he's like, you know what, man? Whatever. If some, he's like, I don't think anything's going to happen for this. You're freaking out for nothing. And if it does, give him my information and I'll take responsibility. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So,
I mean, that's cool. That part's cool. I mean, we'll see what happens there, but so far so good with that guy. I mean, that's the right thing to say if you're that guy, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And I was trying to take all the right steps. Like, I wasn't like, I wanted to like do the best of the situation.
Yeah.
In consideration of like my friendships, but also in consideration of not going to jail.
Yeah. You got to consider not going to jail. If going to jail is on the table, you got to consider not going and how how you can facilitate not going. Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't even consider going to jail even a little bit.
Right. You don't want to do that.
Some people might, free food, free housing, whatever, but
true. Yeah.
So this happened. I believe maybe the detective at hand had maybe called me like one other time and then never heard anything again. And a lot of it, like I said, people were just kind of saying like, listen, like, again, grainy footage or in the middle of nowhere. This is some shitty junkyard. They probably have other issues, which will come into play at the end of the story as well.
Cool.
But nothing ended up happening. And now several months, I want to say months go by at this point.
Wow.
It's kind of a blur at this point, but things were just sort of, back to normal. I had been driving my vehicle, going to and from places, nothing was really going on there. One night decided to go out to fancy establishment called Applebee's. I'm not sure if you've ever,
I'm familiar. Yes. Fancy indeed. Yeah.
You just gotta, you gotta have the big bucks to go there as well.
You gotta treat yourself sometimes. Yeah.
You gotta every now and again, And so, I was there with one of my friends. We were just hanging out casually. I think they have some beer that has some stupid nickname. It's like a tall beer that I drank one of those over the course of my time there. And we were there for a little while. And I wasn't really much for the habit of drinking and driving. So killed some time, ate some food after that, and then decided to drive home. On my drive home, the area that I live in,
I sense, I'm feeling, I got fucking, I'm sensing it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, let's go. Let's have
cooking.
It. Yeah.
We're lighting the fire. So on the ride home, my route home was kind of interesting. It was like, usually I've lived in places where it's not too far off the freeway. So like getting home, like there's usually, not that delinquents out there have their shortcuts or like special way that they think they can get home or something like that. But
right.
For me, there really wasn't. And in fact, the town that I lived in at the time, they had this little area that kind of was like a police haven. Like people were just known to get pulled over because there were a lot of businesses, the traffic slowed down, and, everybody just kind of like, that's where people get pulled over because they would just be like, going like 40 and a 25 and they would just write the tickets all day. I lived there for a while, so I kind of like abided by it. I'd drive at the speed limit or maybe a little bit older, and people would see me in my old beat up car, and they probably just assumed I was in my 90s or something.
Right. Yep.
And so I'm driving back down this road, and at this point, I want to say I'm about a mile total from being home. There's about half mile to the stoplight that I need to go to. Then I make a left. There's another stoplight, a right. Then I'm home.
Okay.
At about that half-mile stretch before the first stoplight, I notice a cop get behind me, and I'm like, "Oh man!" So I'm just doing the typical, like 10 and 2, like I'm right at the old speed limit, not doing anything crazy. And I recognize I don't think I did at the time. I wasn't that messed up, but I might have still had my headlight out for all I know. I just wasn't very responsible in my youth. And cop gets behind me, and I get to the traffic light, and then I put my signal on to turn left. That's usually a good barometer of like, hey, is this guy going to continue going straight, or is he potentially following me now?
Right. Yeah.
So I get there. Basically, it wasn't even like to evade him. I was just trying to go home as it was. And then sure enough, he made the same left turn.
I know that feeling too. You're just like, if he follows me, he might be following me. In fact, he probably is. If he doesn't, I'm home free. Then you start going left and you see he's turning left. You're just like, fuck, now I got to keep thinking about this. Even if it's not what I fear it is, I still got to be thinking about it. Yeah.
Dude, and the worst part about that, not to get off track, is
no, go ahead.
Exact situation has happened to me so many times where it's like I'm getting paranoid and I'm doing that, and then it's a fucking taxi cab or something behind me. It's not even a cop the whole time.
Totally.
And I'm like, oh, well, I just wasted 10 minutes of paranoia for some guy that probably thinks I'm an asshole for driving slow.
Been there too, for sure. Yeah.
Fun stuff.
Yeah.
So I make the left-hand turn, and the cop's still following me. And at this point, I mean, given the time that he got behind me, the time it took stuck at the light, the time it's taken to get to the next light, in my head, I'm like, if he was going to pull me over for something, like it probably would have happened right now.
You would think so. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Like this just seems like, okay, this is just random, because there was a police department not too far away from the general area, but he would have had to have gone straight at the first light instead of make the turn, which is why I was like, something's weird here.
Right. Okay.
So then we get to the next traffic light, which is literally, I turn right and I'm into my subdivision at the time.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so I turn in, and all of a sudden across the street, there was a church parking lot. Then there was just like busy streets, like kind of intersecting into where my subdivision lived. All of a sudden, the second I turn in there, the lights, the sirens, the whole thing starts happening. It's just like, oh shit. Hey,
wow.
If I was going 30 and a 25, I'm sorry, but I don't know if we need this many officers.
Right.
So I pull over into literally like not at my house, but into like the main driveway of the subdivision. And then all of a sudden I hear like, open the fucking door, like stop the vehicle. There was a certain protocol, I might get it wrong, but it's something along the lines of they make you do something where you keep one hand out the window, and then with your other hand, you reach on the outside of the door to open the door, basically to show them that you have no weapons, you're not reaching for anything, so you can leave your vehicle without, taking that old dirt net.
Right.
And so it's like, hey, motherfucker, stop your car right now with your whatever hand, like open the door from the fucking outside.
Right.
Stay facing away from us, start backing. So I kind of, as I'm like opening, I glance backwards and I just see that, oh shit, there's now about 10 cop cars.
Oh, dude. I was going to ask. Oh, God.
Double the amount of officers. And then some of them had weapons drawn on me. And I'm like, in this moment, I'm like, oh, I know what this is.
Right.
This is starting to make sense to me.
And up until that point, had you only considered it was some traffic thing that had happened? Or like, had you thought, oh no, is this about that? Or not at all until that moment?
Kind of space, because enough time elapsed for me to kind of think that, hey,
months
whatever happened in the past.
Totally,
At this point, it was like, I don't even remember this anymore. So it was a little bit weird at first. And then when I saw all the vehicles, then I kind of realized like, oh shit, I know exactly what this is.
Totally, yeah.
So they get me out of the car. They tell me to stay facing away them, hands in there, the whole thing. I'm backing up towards them.
Jesus.
I get close enough, and all of a sudden, hands behind my back. They throw me in cuffs. They're roughing me up. They're swearing. It's going crazy. And I'm like, oh shit. Usually in a situation like that, most people tend to one of two things. I think they panic like a motherfucker because like, what's going on? Or they're, in some cases I've seen people be not so nice and not help not help their situation any more than what's already happened. So I'm just kind of like, okay, like whatever you need, sit on the curb. Sure. Yeah, no problem. Just kind of calm. They all start raiding in my car. They're like, I can hear yelling from inside the vehicle, like, whose fucking car is this? Whose fucking car is this? License and registration. I'm like, sir, I think there's got to be some kind of mistake.
Can I just try to explain one thing? Yeah.
Because what you're about to find in my glove box is proof of registration, proof of insurance to this vehicle under my name.
Yeah.
So they're rifling through this. One officer remained with me at the side of the curb to kind of keep an eye on me. Mind you, by the way, I'm literally in my subdivision.
Right.
So now,
oh God,
all the neighbors are coming.
Oh my kids. God.
Everybody's screaming. They're like, I knew that bastard with the goofy haircut was up to no good. And so like, I'm just like, now I'm like, first, I'm not even thinking like that far ahead at this point, but I'm just like, great. Now, like I've embarrassed my community. They think that I'm just some complete delinquent. This
totally.
Shit.
Right. Yeah.
So they keep rummaging through my vehicle.
Oh God.
And at this point, you kind of see some head scratching going on and a little bit of the commotion dies down.
Yeah.
The officer that was sitting with me ends up having somebody else come over to sit with me. He goes over to meet up with the group to find out what's going on, since he'd been the one to speak with me, and just kind of asked. Then he came back and he's like, is there any reason that your car would be reported stolen? And I'm like, well, sir, I am the owner of the vehicle, and I was just in it before you guys interrupted my evening. And so, no, I couldn't really give you a reason why, that this might have happened. He's like, well, this car is coming up stolen. We're trying to figure out more information. And are you sure you don't know anything about it? And this is actually a true thing. Like in that time, like I moved to a different state, and it's not uncommon where I'd fly home to like go visit family somewhere else. Or I'd be on the road with my band, and some of my friends didn't have a car, so I'd let them use my car when I was gone type thing. So, things may have happened in my vehicle to the day that I just never, like ungodly things.
Okay. Yeah.
So something might have went down, but I just kind of was like, I explained that. I was like, listen, I don't know, like I often travel. Sometimes like I leave my room or my car for my roommates, for friends if they need it. I'm just a good guy. You're going to find that out when you realize this is my vehicle.
Yeah.
Like, all right. They ended up giving me the original guy gave me a breathalyzer test. I think they were just trying to like get something on me to have some reason to like take me in.
Totally. Buy themselves some time too. Like they have to let you go if it's your car, you have registration, but they probably want to hold on to you to figure out what the fuck's going on. Yeah.
Exactly. They're trying to figure out this whole situation. And so, again, I had drank that, whatever it's called, a Brutus or something like that.
You had a Brutus at Applebee's. Yeah.
Hey, living the big life.
Yeah.
And I knew that I wasn't impaired at all. That was like about 2 hours prior. It was just one drink. And I think I blew maybe like a 0.01 or something like that. And the state that I was in at the time was like zero tolerance. So it didn't really matter.
Fuck. Okay.
They could look the other way if they wanted to. But, that the law was the law.
Yeah.
And the guy basically came back, and they finally were able to connect. Like, hey, this was reported stolen from like a tow yard.
Right.
Do you know anything about this at all? And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. My car has never been towed. I don't know. Like, I'm just saying whatever I can, because I'm doing my best to like protect my friends, myself from whatever. Like,
but let me ask you though, why, like, what is if you had to say now, looking back, what is the exact reason you chose to not say, yeah, I know what happened? Because, well, no, yeah, I guess what would you say is the reason for that?
Because I think when I was going through it, like that whole thing about like looking up like consultation from it, I wasn't getting a straight answer. I didn't have the answer. I didn't know what to say.
Okay.
And just, even back then, a lot of people, they kind of just say like, until something happens, like, you just gotta like, basically like, don't say anything that can like
play dumb.
Like, exactly.
Okay.
And that's
fair enough.
Also, I was also, despite the fact that I was trying to remain calm, I was also in complete shock that
of course
I never had a weapon.
Dude, yes.
I know you're looking at me. You're probably thinking this guy's definitely had weapons drawn on him several times. it had never happened to that point, and
Right.
since then. But yeah, I just basically kept saying that, and then I told the guy, this is my car, this is everything, blah blah blah.
Mhm.
I promise it checks out. Finally, the original guy that was sitting with me came back and said, "Listen, man, like, you seem like a cool dude. I'll be honest, like, we took that breathalyzer test. Like, I'm not gonna do anything with that. But like, if anything comes from this, where we find out something like is amiss here, you're gonna have bigger problems, like, because of that and
Oh,
whatever." And which at
okay.
that point, I'm like, I don't know. Can you actually, if you're letting me go that night, can you really, it was probably a scare
Right.
tactic or
Right. Yeah, I'm
something to, like,
sure it was. One last ditch effort to be like, get him to talk. Yeah, right. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so what's funny was they ended up just kind of like dispersing car by car when they realized that I wasn't a threat, and this was my vehicle. There was something
Yeah.
that they needed to figure out.
Right.
And the guy ended up giving me, at the time, like, on the breathalyzer, they had these little, like, plastic straws that are interchangeable to
Right.
to make sure that they just clean for everybody.
Mhm.
So they ended up letting me go that evening, and I took that straw, went right into my home, filled up a cup of Jack and Coke, and just drank it with that exact breathalyzer straw because I'm freaking the fuck out. So
Yeah.
at this point, time went on, nothing ever came of it, and
Wow.
it ended up kind of just like fizzling out. I think there was like one of those things, like, officer kind of even said to me, there's bigger fish to fry. This place is not a
Yeah.
very reputable organization.
Mm.
And what I had alluded to earlier on is that this place had a little bit of problems of their own. It turned out that it was a one-person operation. They were found guilty of, I guess they were, they would take things out of people's cars. They were taking parts from people's cars while they were in their lot. There were some circumstances where, like, vehicles were towed without having valid cause. And ultimately that place was shut down. So I think that was probably part of the reason. Like, there was nothing else. They weren't looking to, like, cause any issue, press any charges.
Right.
At the end of the day, it was like $150 they might have lost out on or anything like that.
Yeah.
So that was kind of it. Never heard anything from it again. And then that place went under, and my friend dodged the bullets. I did dodge, hopefully, many bullets that day. Nothing came at me from the guns, but it was definitely a terrifying situation in my life that I never want to relive again.
Dude, how, for whatever reason, I keep thinking about this one question. Why, or no, like, was there any point where you were just so mad at your friend for all of this? Because if you think about it, none of this happens without him saying, fuck this, and going. None of it. So, like, at the end of the day, I understand, we all understand our friends do dumb shit and we still remain friends with them, obviously. But was there, because I'm thinking about myself in your shoes, and if I'm being honest with myself, there would be at least one moment where I would have, like, had a meltdown on my friend for having caused all of this fucking headache.
I guess the easiest way to put it is, I know that you are the youngest man alive.
Yeah, I am. That's correct. Yeah.
Despite the fact that I look a little young myself, some time has elapsed in my life. And I'll tell you this, I think I just chalk it up to being young and sort of just, friends having their back. If this were something that happened today, while I'm in the back of my own vehicle, I'm calling the police,
right,
a full description of my friend. And I'm like, hey, yeah, this is the guy. I'm looking at him. I'll screen share. This is the dude. This is what's happened. I don't want any stress from this.
Yeah.
My friend is just taking my vehicle, and this is what's going on.
Yeah.
But back then it was just kind of like, I didn't have any indication that things were going to, like, ever, like, stem from it.
Yeah.
And, the fact that we had the conversation and he was just like, look, if anything comes of it, man, then yes, it's me. Like, tell them it's all good.
Right.
Fine. So because of that, like, and even after that day, like, I just kind of, like, that was, like, the last thing that ever stemmed of this. And
wow.
And that was it. So I just, I didn't think there was reason to back then, but nowadays, yeah, in a heartbeat, I'm putting somebody in jail.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're a good friend though. Like, that's, like, very understanding of you. And I get what you're saying. It wasn't like this big moment to be like, do I forgive him or do I, like, but still, it sort of speaks to you. I mean, I know deep down inside you're like a big piece of shit, but it speaks to like a good side of you as well, which is nice for you and the world to maybe know about you, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I definitely am a big piece of shit. just so the record's clear there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was one of those things though, in reality, like certainly their version of a lot of time, like to make jokes about it afterwards, is very different than mine. It traumatized me for a long time. So, now we can look back and laugh, but it was just, it was a bizarre time. And that's what went down.
How about the moment where you had like 20 guns pulled on you?
That not a proud moment. Didn't write home to mom about it. And, hey, guess what you should be proud of your boy for today.
Yeah.
It was just, it's a crazy world out there. I know that exact circumstance does not end well for people for various different reasons.
Yeah.
I think, part of me, like I said, I complied with everything. I didn't try to like anything. I played by the instructions that were handed to me. I didn't fear that like anything was going to escalate. I wasn't trying to like push it any further with them. And so it was one of those things that just seemed like so surreal that you're just like, this definitely isn't fucking happening.
Right.
I'm literally looking at the back of my house, like a block away.
Oh God, how weird.
I'm home, not, So yeah, so that it just kind of reality never really set in.
Yeah.
Like, to this day, I just can't ever make sense of what I was going through or what was going through in my head. But certainly the next couple of days, when I passed by some of those neighbors that were out, definitely wasn't getting the friendliest of looks.
Yeah, I bet.
And I'm like, I was like, man, I swear to God, like, here, let me bring you over some like sugar.
Right. Cup of sugar. Like yeah. I mean, that's the worst situation when you didn't do anything wrong, but other people know you did. You're just like, oh, but I swear, like I'm a good person. They're like, and it's just, there's no winning that. You almost gotta just give up before you even try, because what are you gonna do? Convince them? Then it's like, you seem fucking desperate and even weirder, because they're like, this guy's not only a criminal, he's a fucking liar, and you're just like, you got to leave it alone,
That was it. It's like, basically they're like, hey, you're not getting guns drawn on you for stealing a candy bar. What really happened? And I'm like, swear to God, man.
Yeah. Well, they're lost. You guys could have been fast friends, long-term friends, but they chose to believe you were a criminal, and that's on them.
That's right. They could have stole my car one day.
Yeah, exactly. You could have lent it to them if they needed a car. Wow, dude. That's, you know what? Not only is that a great story, you told that story very well. So thank you.
I appreciate
double thank you.
I was thinking about, I love watching your show, and
thank you.
I see some of these, the guy I think that was on yesterday that got hit in the head with a brick for dead. It's like, a lot of people watch these and like you get this like care in your heart, like, oh man, that's totally awesome. Like, I really feel their story. And so I knew in my story, they're going to be like, oh, this guy's a fucking piece of shit. So
Even I was like that. Even I thought that. Yeah.
Hey, it's cool if you still do as well. I just wanted to make it, add a little dressing to it and have a little fun with it, because it was a weird time to live through, but now that we're on the other side of it, it's all good.
Yeah. And it's cool that you say that, honestly, because one of the tricks of doing this show is, because what we all here want are like the stories, like, getting hit in the head with a slab of concrete, knocked out, left for dead, big, long, epic stories about survival and forgiveness. But we also want shit like this. And it's like, the trick is balancing that. Like, we don't want to fall just into one kind of story. We do want that entire gamut. So thanks again for delivering on that. We need stories like this. I love stories like this. It made me laugh. And you're good at telling it, dude. So you just fucking... Now though, you don't need to. You can just, when this comes out, just send people, be like, I got a crazy story for you, and then just send them a link. Yeah.
Yo, can I do one thing? Because I'm not like an internet guy myself. I've just been dying to say this. If you like this video that you just saw, smash that like button, comment in the comment section, get Matt, just follow every single thing he does, buy all the merch he does. Shit. And I'm a piece of shit.
You're hired, dude. That's the best. That is the best pump up I've ever heard for me. You know what? I had a guess, but it still worked. Anyway, Ryan, dude, honestly, thank you. Great story, great guest. We'll let you know when it's coming out.
Pleasure meeting you, man.
Thanks, man. You too.